Hey, this is Greg. Welcome to the channel. Well, at the end of May 2023, the CEO of Nvidia, Jensen Hwang, shocked the investing world by predicting that next quarter they were going to achieve $11 billion in sales when currently they're just a little over $7 billion. This sent shockwaves through the investing community, and the stock rallied to unheard of heights with a valuation of close to $1 trillion. So in this video, we're going to answer the question, is the rise in Nvidia's stock for real, or is it just hype? And is it for real, or is it just a sucker's play? So let me say at the outset, if you're interested in AI and figuring out a way to make money in AI, and you've heard about Nvidia, but you don't know a lot about it, this video is going to take you a long way to understanding not only Nvidia as a company, but how it fits into the AI space. Now, Nvidia was founded about 30 years ago by Jensen Hwang and some original partners. They went through various iterations of the company, but eventually found extreme success in the graphics area and specifically in the gaming space. So since it achieved tremendous success in the gaming space, the company has turned into a multifaceted business that supports many different types of industries in the area of what is called accelerated computing. So today, the company supports applications in science, research, robotics, of course, gaming, and of course, now is considered one of the leaders in the AI space. So in this video, what I want to basically do is I want to give you some of the history of Nvidia. I want to go through how it evolved to what it is today. And I think there's no better way to do that than to play some very, very wonderful clips of a recent interview with the CEO of the company, Jensen Hwang. And then I want to go into a valuation analysis of where the stock is now. And then I want to give some of my conclusions and recommendations for that for you as an investor, so you can decide if you want to get into this Nvidia story as an investor. So with that, let's hear from Jensen Hwang.
Can you give me a very basic definition of what Nvidia is?
Wow, that's an easy question. Well, we are a technology company that processes software for applications and domains of science that are barely possible without us. And so because of what we do, we can make what is barely possible, or we can make something that is very energy consuming, very energy efficient, or we could turn something that costs a lot of money and make it much more affordable. And so we created this thing called accelerated computing. And that was what we pioneered about 3 decades ago. And it's taken until now to really take off.
Beyond gaming and graphics, Nvidia has grown immensely. I think that there's a lot of things people might be surprised to hear are powered by Nvidia. Can you just give a very simple list of some of the use cases and big name customers that people might be surprised to hear are powered by Nvidia?
People would probably be surprised that the most powerful and energy efficient supercomputers in the world that are used for molecular dynamics simulations, to climate science research, to material science research, to quantum computing research are powered by Nvidia. All the way to the other extreme, a whole bunch of robots that are powered by Nvidia in manufacturing lines, self-driving cars that are powered by Nvidia, to the Nintendo Switch that I'm very proud of that's powered by Nvidia. So we're in very powerful systems, and we're in very energy efficient systems, and probably one of the most talked about systems today are the systems at the Microsoft Azure data centers that are powering Chat GPT and the work that we did with OpenAI in the very beginning to now that powers Chat GPT. And I think those are really quite exciting.
I assume you're talking about the moment with AlexNet and CUDA powering that and sort of the big bang of AI, if you will. I'm curious how much of that you feel like was luck. I mean, what you're talking about is it finding you. It sounds a bit like luck. And how much of it was foresight?
Well, it wasn't foresight. The foresight was accelerated computing. The foresight was making this architecture exactly the same for everybody. Having the discipline of staying true to that platform for generation after generation after generation, believing that eventually our install base would be so large that not only would we have reach, but applications would therefore be enabled by us. New entire applications that weren't possible before would discover us. This is the nature of cloud, this was the nature of PC, this was the nature of mobile cloud. And each one of these revolutions and generations of technology, in the beginning there was some fundamental reason it was successful, and then at some point it achieves a bit of an escape velocity and it becomes exponential. AlexNet is profound in that way. Not only was it a giant breakthrough in computer vision, it was also a profoundly new way of doing software. Some people call it software 2.0, where the machine augments the software programmers and the data writes the software. Instead of humans typing in a software program, the data creates the software. That way of using experience or data to cause a software to be able to make future predictions was so profound, and we had the good wisdom to go put the whole company behind it. We saw early on, about a decade or so ago, that this way of doing software could change everything. All of the software that we wanted to write that we didn't know how to write, we can now do. And that was a great decision. And we changed the company from the bottom all the way to the top and sideways. Every chip that we made was focused on artificial intelligence. We built a wonderful research organization dedicated to artificial intelligence. Our entire software stack was invented for our AI, and then all the things that we did to create large systems and networks, and which then became this thing called an AI supercomputer. And I remember delivering my very first AI supercomputer. I hand delivered it myself. I delivered it to OpenAI. The world's very first AI supercomputer was delivered to OpenAI.
And now here we are, and OpenAI has taken the world by storm. Do you think that your products, Nvidia, is at the very center of this and has become the must-have products to power this next big step?
Well, we're the world's engine for AI. Because of the decisions we made a decade or so ago, and we put so much of our might and expertise into it. We're now in every cloud, we're in every country, in every field of science. 35,000 companies use our AI computers to develop and advance this field. Giant companies like cloud and internet companies, all the way to startups, thousands of startups. They're in all kinds of areas, consumer internet to digital biology to robotics. I'm really happy with the diffusion of the technology. I'm really pleased with how we've democratized the technology so that anybody can access it. You can't ignore the incredible vision and dedication to the work at OpenAI. From the very first day I saw them, they were dedicated to wanting to do this. And they've been focused on it for 5 years. And of course, in research even longer than that. I'm incredibly proud of the work that they've done. Yeah, really terrific team.
So I thought that was extremely interesting, and what it really says to me is that success in business is not the result of sitting around a table and coming up with some grand scheme and implementing this grand scheme, but it's a series of successes and failures, and gradually assessing the business environment and adapting to changes in the business environment, particularly in technology, and arriving at a niche that you can serve better than anyone else. Very inspiring story, and I'm very impressed by this CEO. Okay, now let's take a look at valuation and see what we have at the current stock price. Okay, here we see Nvidia. Currently selling at 378. The market's still open today, so things are still moving around. Let's go to the historic quote. Let's look at year to date. And here you can see this dramatic rise after news came out at the end of May that Jensen was predicting a sales of 11 billion. You can see here's where the valuation hit $1 trillion. It came off that, it rallied again, and now we're off of the $400 a share that it was following the announcement. Let's take a look at some fundamentals for the valuation. Okay, here we have the valuation metrics. We have 2.5 billion shares outstanding. Reasonably large institutional ownership, 66%. The float is 2.4 billion. Very little short interest. Here's something that everyone should focus on, okay? We have a price earnings ratio of 200 times earnings, okay? That's pretty high. And in fact, that's one of the highest price to earnings that I've ever seen. Now, keep in mind, because we're going to talk about this later, that that's on current earnings. That's the price to current earnings, not forward earnings. Price to sales, 36.89 times. That's expensive. 38, almost 39 times book value, right? It's the value of the assets on the balance sheet. And this one is really high price to cash flow. Okay, price to cash flow at 98 times. Okay, that's extremely high. All right. Now, let's just take a look at the earnings and some of the other metrics here that we look at. Okay. Let's look at earnings first. Okay, now here you can see what has been happening. Here is where he announced the current earnings. Current earnings were $1.09, right? Up 17 cents. And you saw the dramatic rise in the stock price here. But that's not from the current earnings. That's from what he was predicting here. So he's predicting basically that the earnings are going to double in the following quarter. So that caused this stock rally to go up. You can see this a little bit better with the revenue projection. You can see currently the revenues are 7.2 billion in the current quarter, and here's where he's projecting they're going to go up over 11 billion. So that's what caused this price spike that you see right here. Okay? So if you go back to the earnings multiple and the earnings are going to double, that means that this price to earnings on forward earnings projections is 100 times instead of 200 times. But I got to tell you, that projection in my mind is still speculative, and that 100 times forward earnings is still extremely expensive. Now, let's take a look at cash flow, which is what I focus on. Here, this is interesting. You can see that cash flow is not expected to more than double until the following quarter. And we're not exactly sure what that means. What it most likely means is that when these $11 billion of orders come in, there's going to be a large amount of CapEx associated with producing those chips and that material. So the benefit of those sales in terms of cash flow are not going to be recognized until the following quarter. That would be my best guess of that. Okay, now here are the things that I look at in terms of technical analysis. And I'm going to change this from the 20-day moving average to the 50-day moving average. And as you can see, anything that is above the upper level of the Bollinger Bands is severely overbought, and anything that's below is oversold. This is the 50-day moving average here. So we're keying off the 50-day moving average in terms of this trading range. So you can see, reference to the Bollinger Bands, the current stock price is very, very overbought, extremely overbought. Okay, the next thing we look at is the slow stochastics, which is an oscillator index, also showing overbought. The relative strength index, which is relative strength of the price action relative to other stocks in the group, is also severely overbought. It was more overbought a couple weeks ago, but it's still overbought severely. Momentum, same thing. And money flow is not as severely overbought, but it's still overbought. So when all of these things line up like this, from a technical standpoint, the price of this stock is extremely extended. Okay, extremely extended. And what I would expect would be that it's going to trade down in the next few weeks closer to its 50-day moving average and maybe below, depending on what happens next. And also keep in mind, if at the next earnings announcement, if there's any disappointment on that $11 billion in sales, the stock's going to sell off like crazy. Okay, so there's a lot of risk right now in this stock. Okay, so I think it's pretty clear as you go through the analysis and you analyze where we are with the stock and the company, and you begin to learn a little bit more about the company and how it factors into AI, you realize that even though this is an extremely interesting company and it really is at the forefront of the AI revolution, the stock at this point in time is extremely extended. So as you look at this, I think you can make a number of conclusions following the analysis and learning more about Nvidia. Number one, I think that AI and this accelerated computer model, which Nvidia has pioneered and perfected, is definitely the future of computing and definitely is the future of technology. And along those lines, it's very important, if you're going to be involved in technology from this point on, to understand AI and understand how to make money within the AI space. I think also Nvidia is uniquely positioned among the technology companies to benefit from this move to AI. I think it's incredible that investors today can hop on board this Nvidia stock and benefit from 30 years of innovation and development that Jensen and his team have gone through over many, many years of trial and error of getting to this point. And now, when they are positioned within this AI space, you can now benefit from it as an investor. I think that's really, really cool, and I think it's an incredible opportunity. But as with anything, you have to get into it at the right price. You have to get into it at a price where the probability is high that you're going to benefit and be in at a valuation where the odds are stacked in your favor that you're going to make money. What I see happening now with this enormous rally in the stock, I think what you're going to see over the next weeks, months, is you're going to see the institutions dumping this stock on unsuspecting retail investors that are basically getting caught up in the hype and caught up in the recent announcement. And I think this point in time to get into the stock is extremely risky. So what I would do, going back to the chart that I showed you earlier, I would track that right around that 50-day moving average, and I would look to also get in at the lower end of the trading range. Now, with a stock that's this hot and there's so much attention to this stock, it might be a long time before it gets into the lower end of the trading range. But if you go back and look at the historic quote, which we'll do right now, let's look at 3 years, okay? Even if you look at 3 years, I mean, look, it was during the pandemic and all that, it was down. 2021, look what it did. It went from, 130, rode it all the way up to, 325. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that run. It peaked right here, right before 2022, and then look what happened. It went down. Now these stocks are not going to just go up and keep going up. Okay, you see a peak like this, and what's going to happen is the institutions are going to distribute the stock, and it's going to gradually be reduced in price. And so once it gets down to 300, people start to lose interest. And I'm telling you, if it goes to the point where there's any deviation in terms of a disappointment from the standpoint of the next earnings report, this thing could easily be back down to, I know it sounds ridiculous, but back down to in the 150 to 200 range. I mean, like easy, like within a couple weeks, it could go down that quickly. And I think in this case, you just have to be really patient, and you have to keep your powder dry and be in a position where you can jump right on it and start accumulating a position when it gets down to those levels. So the windup is, love the CEO, love the company, love its position in AI, and I'm going to continue to do research to continue to try to figure out and express to you on these videos where I think we can make money in AI going forward, because I think it is a tremendous trend in technology right now that has an enormous amount of potential. And if you guess this right, you're going to be able to get rich over the next 5 years. Hope you liked the video. Hope you got a lot out of it. And if you did, please subscribe and like, and give me your comments below. I'd love to hear your input and your ideas regarding this company and the market in general. And so thanks for joining. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.